Hi, I'm Alyssa Morsavati, Director of U.S. Language Services. For over 15 years, I've been active in the translation industry in various capacities. I've worked as a translator, a reviser, and a project manager with clients in the U.S., Latin America, and Europe. Since 2018, U.S. Language Services has provided translation services to thousands of clients spanning a wide variety of industries, from individuals to law firms to educational institutions to government agencies. Continuing with our series on licensed professions, in this video we're going to explain the process of getting licensed as a foreign-trained social worker in the U.S. To help you on your journey, we'll guide you through some important steps to get your license. Along the way, we'll point out useful resources like licensing boards and study guides, and we'll link to those in the video's description box. So let's get started. If you're a social worker who's relocating to the U.S., getting your license is the first step to continuing your career. To carry out their work effectively, social workers often have access to sensitive information about their clients and hold the power to make life-changing decisions. Given the significant impact of these roles, it's only natural that social workers must complete a thorough licensing process. Fortunately, many states welcome social workers with foreign credentials, and the steps you need to follow are fairly simple. If you've earned a degree and gone through training to become a social worker, it's probably because you enjoy helping people in need. And just because you're moving to a new country doesn't mean you have to give up your passion of advocating for those in your community. Aside from helping others, social workers in the U.S. make a decent salary, so you'll be well compensated for doing what you love. The field of social work not only brings personal fulfillment, but can also be financially rewarding. The national average salary for social workers is around $76,000 per year, as reported by ZipRecruiter. Then there's potential for higher earnings as you gain experience and advance in your career. You may be wondering if it's worth the effort to get your social work license and start looking for jobs, and the answer is yes. Social workers have meaningful careers and real opportunities to positively impact people's lives. Professional social workers are always needed in settings like schools, hospitals, mental health clinics, senior centers, and private companies. In fact, social workers are the largest providers of mental health services nationwide, according to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. With their presence in such high demand, social workers can expect job security and growth opportunities for years to come. So now that you know getting your license is possible and careers are available, let's go over the next steps. One of the first things you'll need to know is which authority will issue your social work license. Although there are national organizations to assist social workers like the National Association of Social Workers, or ASWB, and the Council of Social Worker Education, or CSWE, your social work license will ultimately come from the state where you intend to practice. For instance, if you want to work as a social worker in California, you'll need approval from the California Board of Behavioral Sciences. On the other hand, if you hope to practice in Illinois, you'll be licensed by the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation. To find your specific licensing board, you can do a quick Google search or use a website called socialworklicensmap.com. There you'll find links to the websites for every state licensing board in the United States. In the description below, we'll also provide contact information for social work licensing boards in California, Florida, Illinois, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, and Texas, as these are 7 of the most popular states for people immigrating to America. When it comes to contacting your social work licensing board, here are a few tips to make the process smoother. To start, if English isn't your first language, you might consider drafting your message in your native language and then translating it to make sure your message is clear. If this is something you're interested in, we can help with professional translations. Second, include as much detail as possible in your email or letter. Be sure to provide your full name, phone number, mailing address, and email address so the board can easily reach you with their response. If you prefer to call the board rather than email, keep in mind that their offices typically operate from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. It's also worth noting that the United States spans several time zones, so be sure to check what time zone your licensing board is in so you can call during business hours. One of the first steps in becoming licensed is obtaining an evaluation of your foreign credentials. As a social worker who's been educated in another country, you will need your foreign credentials evaluated by a professional service. Luckily, the CSWE has a specific department called the International Social Work Degree Recognition and Evaluation Service, or ISWDRES. This service is responsible for evaluating foreign academic and professional credentials to see if they're comparable to accredited social work degrees in the United States. They then provide a report that explains how your foreign grades, degrees, licenses, and qualifications compare to those in the U.S. This process is essential if you want to qualify for employment, graduate school, or state licensing in the U.S. Many states specifically require applicants to use the ISWDRES, while other states may allow you to choose a different service. If you're interested in using a different credential evaluation service, you should contact the state where you hope to be licensed to ask for their recommendation. The fees for this evaluation depend on the country where you completed your degree. Countries are divided into 3 groups, and the fees goes as follows. Group A applicants pay $170, Group B pays $380, and Group C pays $610. There's also a $35 screening fee for everyone. You can pay for the service using a link online or send a check or money order to their address. To get started with the process, you'll need to have your social work program send ASWB documentation of the competencies or expected outcomes. This form outlines the knowledge, skills, and values that the program requires students to have by the time they graduate. Next, you'll have to arrange for your transcripts to be sent directly from your social work program to the CSWE. You'll also need an official letter from your university confirming that you graduated with a degree in social work. This letter must be printed on official university letterhead, include your graduation date, and have the signature of the department director or chair. Lastly, you'll have to send in course descriptions for every social work class on your transcript. These descriptions should come from your program's course catalog. The ISWDRES asks applicants to highlight the courses they took to make the review process easier for its staff. If the course descriptions are not in English, you'll need translations. To ensure that they're accurate and will be accepted, it's important to use a professional translation service. So let's talk about certified translations. It's important that you understand that you aren't allowed to translate your own documents even if you are fluent in English. In most cases, evaluation agencies will give you various options depending on whether you are going to have your documents translated in the US or abroad. So make sure you check with the evaluation agency as they may have specific requirements. Some evaluation agencies may also offer translation services for an additional fee. However, since U.S. Language Services specializes in translation, our rates are typically much more competitive and can be as much as 50% less than what evaluation agencies charge. Also, if necessary, we can send the translations directly to the agency or the board in the state where you aim to work. Regarding certified translations themselves, it's important to understand that they don't indicate the direct correspondence between a degree obtained abroad and its equivalent in the U.S. What certified translations do is convert your documentation into English, which then allows the evaluation agency or licensing board to review your academic and professional credentials. Certified translations do not change the value of the mark obtained. For example, if you earned a 10 in an academic subject in a country where subjects are numerically evaluated from 1 to 10, your certified translation will indicate that you earned a 10 and not an A+. In addition to the documents required for the credential evaluation process, it may be worthwhile to have your recommendation letters or certificates of work experience translated for future job applications. To obtain a certified translation from U.S. Language Services, you can place your order through our website or request a quote. You can send us scanned copies or photographs of your documents. We don't need your physical copies. You'll find the links to request a quote or place an order in the description. Now we'll delve into how to demonstrate your level of English proficiency. To effectively practice social work, you'll need excellent English skills. Your native language can be a valuable asset when working with clients who don't speak English as their first language, especially if you share the same language. However, to truly advocate for your clients, you'll need strong English skills. On their website, NASW describes the ability to communicate clearly in English as a standard all social workers must meet. This is because social workers often assist clients from various cultural backgrounds, including those with limited English proficiency or low literacy. Strong English speaking and writing skills are essential for social workers to connect with clients, document case notes, and understand legal requirements. Fluency in English also helps in collaborating with healthcare professionals, supporting clients in legal settings, and navigating medical systems. Beyond improving your communication with clients, proving your English proficiency can also help you land a job because employers won't have to question your language abilities. 2 of the most common English proficiency exams in the United States are the TOEFL, which stands for the Test of English as a Foreign Language, and the IELTS, the International English Language Testing System. Aside from demonstrating your English skills, all potential social workers will need to pass the same countrywide exam. The national exam to become a social worker is the Association of Social Work Board, or ASWB exam. The ASWB is the organization that created the national exam for social workers in the U.S. There are 5 different versions of the exam: the Associate, Bachelor's, Master's, Advanced Generalist, and Clinical. Each one focuses on different skills and sets of knowledge depending on the type of social work you're going into. Social work is sometimes difficult to define, and your day-to-day work will often be dynamic. But the NASW has done their best to divide social work into 16 categories, ranging from macro-level work with community organization down to personal care with clients such as elderly people and school children. Social workers are needed in every facet of community life and address a wide range of issues from disabilities and healthcare to substance abuse and public policy. Usually, the level of the exam you take will be dictated by the social work degree you earned and your level of professional experience. So, if you received a bachelor's degree in social work, you'll most likely take the bachelor's exam. Similarly, if you earned a master's degree, you will probably take the master's exam or even the clinical exam if you have prior clinical experience. You may be in doubt about which version of the exam to take, but when your credentials are evaluated, as we discussed earlier, you'll get a clear idea of exactly which level of social work you're qualified for in the US. As I just mentioned, the ASWB exam technically has 5 versions, and each is designed for a different level of social work practice. Each version of the exam has the same number of questions and follows the same scoring method. But the first 2 versions of the exam, which are the associate and bachelor's exams, have the exact same questions and are only different in name. This first version of the exam focuses on general practice at the undergraduate level. Then, the master's exam targets those with a master's degree, covering advanced skills needed for specialized social work. For these first 3 versions of the exam, the fee is $230. For social workers with more experience, there's the Advanced Generalist exam, which is ideal for non-clinical roles that involve broader macro-level work. Finally, the clinical exam is tailored for those with field experience who plan to use their skills for direct client care and therapy. For these final 2 versions of the exam, the fee is $260. The ASWB exam include questions at 3 different levels of difficulty: recall, application, and reasoning. These levels test a range of skills. Recall questions focus on your ability to remember and understand information, such as definitions and theories. Application questions ask you to apply knowledge in specific scenarios, bringing it to life in real-world situations. And reasoning questions are a bit more complex, requiring you to combine both recall and application skills to make a professional judgment. If you're in doubt about which version of the ASWB exam you should take, it's best to contact your particular state's licensing board. But no matter which state you're planning to work in, all future social workers must pass some version of this exam to be licensed. When you're ready to take the exam, the first step is to register with the ASWB. You'll need to pay the exam fee, which is $230 for the associate, bachelor's, or master's exams, or $260 for the advanced generalist or clinical exams. Once that's done, you can schedule your test through Psychometric Solutions, Inc., or PSI, which is a testing company that the ASWB has partnered with to administer the exam. PSI has locations all over the US, and to book your date, you can set up an account online, or you can call the company and make arrangements. Each version of the ASWB exam has 170 questions, and you'll have 4 hours to complete it. The exam is administered through a PSI computer with software that allows you to move around freely within the exam and change your answers. The testing system also allows you to flag any questions you want to come back to, skip questions, highlight text, and review anything you need. To ensure fairness, the ASWB adjusts the number of correct answers needed based on the difficulty of each test version, so everyone has an equal chance. If you want to familiarize yourself with the testing software before the exam, PSI offers an exam software tutorial that lets you try out a few practice questions. This tutorial helps you get comfortable with how the computer screen and navigation keys will look when you actually sit for the exam. After you finish the exam, your unofficial score will be displayed on the screen and emailed to you. This unofficial score report will stay in your PSI account for as long as you need it. The ASWB report exam scores as pass or fail. The report will show how many questions you needed to pass and how many you answered correctly. If you don't pass, the report will include a breakdown of how many questions you got right in each section. Your official exam results will be forwarded directly to the ASWB and the Social Work Board in the state where you are applying for licensure. According to the ASWB exam guidebook, it may take between 2 weeks and 2 months for the licensing board to process and send your score. If you don't pass the exam on your first attempt, you'll be able to retake it after 90 days. To do so, you'll have to register again 7 days after your first attempt. You'll also have to pay the exam fee again. If you failed the exam, but you were within 10 points of passing, you can request a waiver to take the exam before waiting 90 days. The ASWB allows you to retake the exam as many times as you need. However, the organization encourages you to check with your local licensing authority. Some states may have their own rules about how many attempts you can take. It's a smart idea to confirm these details to make sure you're following the right guidelines. To help you prepare, the ASWB offers a practice test made from real past exam questions for $85. This practice test is only available once per purchase, and it comes with online study materials that you can access for 30 days. Just like the real exam, it's 170 questions with a 4-hour time limit. Once you finish, you'll see which questions you answered correctly or missed with explanations for the logic of each answer. If you're looking for extra help studying, a great place to start is the study guides written by Don Apgar, who has a PhD in social work. Apgar has created multiple guides and practice tests specifically designed for each level of the exam, from the associate and bachelor's exam all the way up to the clinical exam. Her books are available in both Kindle and paperback formats, so you can choose what works best for you. Each book is priced differently, but generally you can expect to pay about $50 for the Kindle versions and $75 or more for a paperback copy. For a more affordable option, Amazon also features the ASWB Master's Study Guide for 2024 and 2025, written by the New Stone Social Work team. This guide includes 4 full-length practice exams with a total of 680 unique questions, along with explanations for each answer. While it's less well known, it has a 4-star rating on Amazon and costs just $30, so it could be a great place to start studying. If you prefer studying on your cell phone or computer, you might want to consider Study.com, which offers its services for $60 a month. They feature specific exam prep courses for each version of the ASWB exam, which you can access through an app on both Android and Apple devices. No matter which course you choose, you'll be provided with hundreds of videos and practice questions. For example, the study course for the master's level exam comes with 209 video lessons and 33 practice tests. Online discussion forums and groups are another great resource for people preparing for the ASWB exam. The subreddit Our Social Work has over 93,000 members with professionals from almost every state and level of experience. Members often post study tips and recommend guides that you've found useful. If you visit this subreddit, you'll notice that posts usually receive responses within 24 hours. So if you have a specific question about your state or exam, you're likely to get an answer pretty quickly. Practicing social workers also frequently ask and answer questions about their day-to-day work, which means you can stay connected and seek advice even after you're licensed. If it's easier for you to use Facebook, there's a private group called Social Work Resources and Support with about 24,000 members. The group is private, which means the administrators monitor the post to make sure every post is relevant and helpful. The group receives about 8 posts a day, so like the subreddit, you should receive a response to an inquiry within a day or 2. The great thing about these groups is that even if someone doesn't have the exact answer you're looking for, they can most likely point you in the right direction. Each state in the U.S. only permits certain types of social workers to practice and has state-specific exams for each one. For instance, a state like Texas might allow social workers with only a bachelor's degree to get licensed, while other states, such as California, require a master's degree to enter the field. Meanwhile, another state like New York might have 2 different levels of social work for people with master's degree. Something else that can be confusing is deciphering what official title your job might have when you enter the workforce. Unlike some licensed professions in the U.S., there is not one nationwide standard for the professional titles given to social workers. For example, you'll see major differences between the possible names for social workers in Massachusetts versus New Jersey. Given these differences, the best way for you to figure out exactly which social work title you want to register for is to ask the state licensing board where you want to work. The good news is that most states have processes in place for social workers trained abroad to qualify for licensure. With that in mind, here's a closer look at the types of social work licenses available in the 7 most popular states for immigrants coming to the U.S. In California, the only social worker that can practice is a licensed clinical social worker. These professionals are often referred to as LCSWs and offer direct mental care to clients by assessing, diagnosing, and treating mental health conditions and emotional issues. Another thing worth noting about LCSWs is that they can work independently without supervision. If you earned your master's degree in social work outside of the United States, California requires that you have your degree comprehensively evaluated by the CSWB's evaluating service to determine the equivalence to a master's degree. The evaluation must either be sent to the Board of Behavioral Sciences in a sealed envelope from the CSWE or emailed directly to their email address. Afterwards, you'll need to apply for Associate Social Worker registration with the California Board of Behavioral Sciences using their out-of-country application. Becoming an Associate Social Worker, or ASW, is a necessary step for everyone in California. It allows you to start building the 3,000 hours of supervised work you need. This ASW status means you're in a pre-licensure phase, which lets you gain clinical experience while being supervised. But it doesn't mean you're fully licensed yet. After finishing the required hours and passing the licensing exam, you can then apply to become an LFCW, which allows you to practice on your own. You will also need to pass the California Law and Ethics exam, a 75-question exam which covers 44% law-related questions and 56% ethics-related questions. The exam is administered by a testing vendor called Pearson View. After completing your supervised hours and passing the ethics exam and the ASWB exam, you can apply for your LCSW licensure. As for Florida, there are two social work licenses, and those are Certified Master Social Workers, abbreviated as CMSWs, and LCSWs. To become a CMSW, you need an official transcript showing a master's degree in social work. Additionally, you need 3 years of social work experience, including 2 years of postmaster supervision by a certified social worker. Finally, you have to pass the ASWB Advanced Generalist exam. All candidates need to complete 3 additional courses provided by a company called CE Broker. The first is an 8-hour course covering Florida's laws and rules. The second is a 3-hour course covering HIV and AIDS. And the third is a 2-hour course regarding domestic violence. If you earned your social worker degree from a program outside the U.S., you'll need to provide documentation showing that your program is equivalent to those accredited by the CSWE. This evaluation must be conducted by the ISWDRES. Then you'll need an additional course-by-course evaluation that must be performed by an evaluator approved by the board. In Illinois, there are 2 tiers of licensure: the licensed social worker, which is called an LSW, and the LCSW. The LSW is an entry-level license that does not require the social worker to take the ASWB exam, and there are 2 ways to obtain this license. The first way is by earning a bachelor's degree in social work and then working for 3 years under supervision. The second way is by earning a master's degree and applying for the license. People who choose to become an LSW by earning bachelor's and 3 years of supervised experience will have a few advantages. Firstly, they'll probably be paid for their 3 years of work even before they're licensed. Secondly, they won't need to pay for a master's degree. So becoming a LSW could be a great option if you don't have the spare time or money for extra schooling. However, LSWs will be required to work under the supervision of a qualified supervisor at all times. On the other hand, LCSWs will have the potential to earn more money because they will qualify for jobs with a higher level of responsibility and also be able to open a private practice. However, they must earn a master's degree and pass the ASWB exam. Anyone who earned their bachelor or master's degree outside the United States will need to have their degree evaluated by the ISWDRES. If you're hoping to be a social worker in Massachusetts, there are 4 different types of licenses, and you can apply using Massachusetts' reciprocity application. The 4 types of social workers that can practice in Massachusetts are LCSWs, LSWs, licensed social worker associates or LSWAs, and licensed independent clinical social workers or LICSWs. To apply for any of these licenses, you'll need to show that you currently have a social work license that's equivalent to the appropriate Massachusetts license in terms of education and experience. As with other states, you will need to have your credentials evaluated by the ISWDRES. You will also need to submit a certified licensure verification form for all your licenses, both current and expired, in a sealed envelope from the issuing authority where you've been practicing. You'll also need an official certified transcript of your highest relevant degree sent electronically straight from your school to the email for the Massachusetts section of the ASWB. Next, you'll need to provide 3 professional references and their current email addresses. At least one of your references should have a license that's at the same level as the license you're applying for. You'll also need to provide an official certified score report for the ASWB exam you've passed. Lastly, you're required to include a notarized criminal offender record information form, which you can mail or fax to ASWB. New Jersey allows 3 types of social workers to practice. Those are LSWs, LCSWs, and finally certified social workers, or CSWs. New Jersey does not have a separate application process for people who are trained outside of the United States. The best option is to contact the New Jersey Board of Consumer Affairs directly, providing details about the country where you were educated and licensed. After you provide your information, the board will be able to give you the best guidance. In New York, you can practice as either a licensed master social worker, which is abbreviated as LMSW, or an LCSW. As an LMSW, you'll be required to practice under the supervision of a licensed clinical professional. An LCSW requires additional educational and training, enabling social workers to operate private practices independently. To become an LCSW, you must first work as an LMSW and gain 36 months of supervised experience before applying for a license. To practice as a social worker, you must complete additional training to help identify and report child abuse. The New York Office of Professions provides a list of approved organizations where you can take this required course. If you were trained and licensed as a social worker outside of the United States and want to qualify for licensure in New York, you'll need to show that you hold a master's degree in social work or an equivalent degree. To prove that your education is equivalent, you can use the CSW's International Social Work Evaluation Service. According to the New York Office of Professions, your graduate program in social work needs to have at least 2 years of full-time study, which add up to a minimum of 60 semester hours. New York also mandates that the program include a field practicum of at least 900 hours. Finally, if you want to work in Texas, there are three main types of social workers. The first is licensed baccalaureate social workers, also called LBSWs. These social workers need a bachelor's degree and will focus on general practice, helping clients with case management and advocacy. Then there's LMSWs, who need a master's degree and hold a more advanced license, allowing them to practice in a clinical role under supervision. The third type of social worker in Texas is an LCSW and needs to complete additional supervised clinical hours. LCSWs can provide therapy and counseling independently in hospitals, clinics, and private practices. Texas grants license to social workers with foreign degrees if their education is evaluated and found to be equivalent to a degree from a school accredited by the CSWE. To determine if someone's degree and experience are equivalent, they should have them evaluated by ASWDRES. However, it is ultimately up to the Texas Social Work Board to determine equivalency. Like all states, you'll need to provide proof that you've passed the ASWB, and you'll also need to submit your fingerprints to verify your criminal history. You'll also need to pass the Texas Jurisprudence exam, and luckily the Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council says the exam is impossible to fail. You'll simply answer each exam question until you get them all correct. Test takers have as many tries as they need, and there's no time limit. After you receive your license, you'll probably begin the search for work. While there's many resources to search for jobs, you can start with the National Association of Social Work's job link. Using a simple online form, you can search for available jobs by city or state. After you're granted your social work license, to maintain it, you'll need to renew it every 2 or 3 years. Every state has unique guidelines, fees, and continuing education requirements for renewing social work licenses, so it's essential to check the specific criteria for the state where you plan to practice. Keeping that in mind, let's review what social workers need to do to renew their licenses in some of the most popular states for newcomers to the United States. California requires LCSWs to renew their license every 2 years for a fee of $220. The requirements include 6 hours of training on suicide risk, 3 hours on telehealth ethics, 7 hours on HIV/AIDS, and 6 hours on law and ethics. The remaining hours can be completed with courses relevant to their clinical practice. Once you become an LCSW or CMSW in Florida, you'll need to renew your license every 2 years. To do this, you need to complete 30 hours of continuing education. You'll also need to pay the renewal fee, which is $120 for LCSWs and $155 for CMSWs. In Illinois, both LSWs and LCSWs must complete 30 hours of continuing education to renew their licenses. This includes 3 hours on ethics and 3 hours on cultural competence. The renewal fee for both types of licenses is $60. Massachusetts has more specific continuing education requirements. To renew their licenses, social workers need to complete the continuing education through board-approved programs. For each license type, the requirements go as follows. LICSWs need 30 hours, LCSWs require 20 hours, LSWs must complete 15 hours, and LSWAs need 10 hours. The renewal fees are $82 for LICSWs, $68 for LCSWs, $54 for LSWs, and $42 for LSWAs. In New Jersey, each social work license requires a different number of continuing education credits. LCSWs need 40 credits, LSWs need 30, and CSWs need 20 credits. Even though the total number differs, there are specific credits that are the same across all 3 licenses. That includes 5 credits in ethics, 3 in social and cultural competency, and 1 in opioid addiction. All licenses must be renewed every 2 years with renewal fees as follows. CSWs pay $70, LSWs pay $120, and LCSWs pay $160. As for New York, both LMSWs and LCSWs need to complete 36 hours of continuing education every 3 years. To help social workers find where to get these credits, the New York Office of Professions created a list of approved providers available. The renewal fee for both licenses is $179. Lastly, in Texas, licensed social workers, whether they are LBSW, LMSW, or LCSW, need to complete at least 30 hours of continuing education each time they renew their license. Out of these 30 hours, 6 should focus on professional ethics, 3 hours need to cover cultural competency. If you're supervising others as an LCSW, an additional 6 hours must be dedicated to supervision training, and these hours can count towards your 30 hours. Well, that brings us to the end of our overview of the licensure process for social workers in some of the top states for immigrants in the U.S. Keep in mind that many states have similar standards, so the information we've discussed should give you a solid understanding of what to expect nationwide. As you prepare to relocate to the U.S., remember that social workers are in high demand and there are job opportunities available across the country. Although the journey to obtaining your social work credentials here may present some challenges, it is definitely rewarding. Your education and experience will enable you to make a significant difference in your new community and enjoy a satisfying career. Regardless of your background, moving to the United States usually requires certified translations of essential documents. You may need translations for items like your college transcripts, birth certificates, or previous social work qualifications. Feel free to contact us and we'll ensure you have all the translations necessary to embark on your new adventure.